So I'm currently holding a studio exhibition, hence the signs, and I'll walk around to the studio and I can tell you a little bit about the work and what I have been up to. The place is looking nice because we've had lots of time to work through the lockdown and painted the house and done lots of the garden. And welcome into my studio. So, I'll give you a quick run around. I graduated from a master's in, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I've always painted and drawn, and I suppose the work has changed a lot over the years. At the beginning of the lockdown, I came back from London. I'd been living in London for a year, and kind of panicked about not having materials, but I had lots of old paintings and I had some glass inks. So I started to deconstruct my paintings, where I literally carved away the surface, and it was an attempt really to resolve what I wanted to do with my work, but these linear forms started to emerge from the composition of the previous paintings that were on those panels. So these are on gesso panel, and you can see I've carved into them with all sorts of things, blades, lino cutters, and then I was applying inks and sanding back the surface, and then reapplying and sanding back, reapplying, sanding back. So I think in a way it was a reflection of just rethinking everything when the world was so uncertain, and who knows, there's lots of questions, big questions that may not necessarily be answered very easily. But I guess it was an attempt to kind of solve some of those ideas and questions just through paint and playing and curiosity. And so, as I said, I was out of materials, and I found some glass inks in my studio that I'd never worked with before. So these started to emerge. These ones are quite recent now. They weren't old. These glass ink ones aren't old paintings, they're new paintings. But as you can see, they're kind of shiny, kind of domestic tile-like. I think they're quite book-like as well, in that they're, there's lots of marks and there's certain language going on, and they're very tactile. You want to pick them up and touch them and leaf through them, really. And also they're like a quest for knowledge, in some sense, that they don't really know what they are. They're starting to become something, but they morph into their own little stories. I think one of the nice things about working in a more abstract way is that they don't have expectations. They can change and reform into whatever I want them to reform into, and then again there's a kind of a different dialogue when the audience comes to view them, which I like, because people see different things in different paintings. So this is where I work. Usually I don't have so much crap in here. The sofa usually lives in the front room where I have my exhibition on at the moment. This does as well, my workbench. I am a very messy painter, as you can see. All my brushes are fucked because I like using things that are kind of different to work with, and even old paint dried into my brushes kind of creates different marks when I go to scratch into my work. So you can kind of my glass inks and things. Here are some of the little paintings I've been making over lockdown. There's more in the actual exhibition. But I think they've been most successful out of all of it. Just in terms of making more sense to me. So this is my space. Usually I have my sofa in here, my books. They're all hidden away there now because obviously I wanted to make a really good impression for everybody coming to see my work. So here's some of the smaller pieces. And again, they work to read a certain way, I think. You know, they're very tactile. There's a lot of gestural mark making. There's a lot of scratching into the surface, layering, and just allow a way to create a new language or articulate a language that isn't necessarily articulated through words. Not in my head, anyway. So some, like this one, are all where the pink bits are I used a lino cutter to scrape back the gesso off the panel. So I've gone back a couple of layers and then embedded the inks in them and then sanded it back and then layered up again, sanded it back. And then the likes of this one was made by applying paint and inks and then pressing the panel off another panel. So some little bits come away and they morph into each other. The paintings do. So they really kind of form themselves in a lot of ways, in that I make decisions, obviously conscious decisions on colour and form and things, but there are a lot of happy accidents going on here as well. And in the end, it's just a question of whether it's finished or not. Another process here, kind of a combination, I guess, of the other two, where I'm sanding back and layering, and then applying glass inks from another panel and pressing it onto this. So there's a lot of different things going on. I think one of the nice things about them as well is every time I have somebody coming in to see the work, that they're taking their own reading entirely from the surface, and it's interesting to see what people bring to a painting. Really interested in that crossover and what kind of dialogue can form between me as the artist and then navigate ideas through presentation of a painting. Here's one of my bigger pieces. This is another deconstruction painting, and I call it Undergrowth. It was after I knew it was there always, but rediscovering a lovely old abandoned settlement very close to my house here. I'm right beside the beach, and it's there's a church and there's all sorts of little dwellings, probably abandoned about 150 years ago. There's all sorts of different kind of folk stories locally, but no one actually knows really why it was abandoned or anything else. So I think these are quite architectural, they're quite landscapey. There's all sorts of different things going on. And then there's something about the surface being like, or the paint being like skin, but you know, that it can be scarred or it can be made up to look better, or it can be so many different things, but it's permeable, and it can allow a crossover and a transformation to occur, that it's not just an envelope or something that we're contained in. So I think there's a lot of metaphorically that you can read into the paint being like skin. So this painting was made from a photograph that I took of the erosion on the beach. I've worked with that kind of theme before as well. It's just really interesting, especially because I travel a lot and I come back after a few months and the whole coastline has changed again. So I make 3 paintings, same size, same format, all on gesso board, all using oil paint and glass inks, but working them in a different way. So that was one. This one was from the same picture, same photograph I took. So there's similarities in you know, the shapes and the forms here. And this looks like Batman, but it's not supposed to be. But everyone keeps saying that, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so you see the similar, you know, basic form of painting, and then just approach them completely different ways. Some more little ones, and they're shiny. There's something as well about using a shiny surface that, you know, it reflects back on you, it reflects the world around it. There's something really interesting about that to me. And again, they're quite domestic, they're quite tiled and almost look like ceramics or a glaze or something. So there's elements of all sorts of things going on. Really language, surface, landscape. Something about being at home in this lockdown. All this work, by the way, has been made during the lockdown. It's been very productive time for me, so that's good. But just reassessing how I want to see the world, how the world sees me, maybe. So I hope you enjoy my little tour around. If you have any questions or anything, don't be afraid to get in touch. I love studio visits. I love having other artists talking about my work, and yeah, anyone's welcome anytime, by appointment obviously. So that's about it. I will leave you with beautiful sunshine, blue sky and a sea breeze. Thanks for listening. Bye.